policies. So everything that you see in our plan is not enforceable under the federal regulations. Only the enforceable policies are. And in the Ocean Special Area Management Plan, those are called regulatory standards. The SAMP, or Ocean SAMP, or Special Area Management Plan, was actually put in place back in 2010. It was adopted by the state to actually give us more authority in these areas to look at this. It was to beef up our enforceable policy so that we would have something to review major ocean initiatives out in federal waters as well as state waters. So that was put in place, for instance, to allow us to review activities and for us to put in policies that would protect the fishery where we could. Prior to the Ocean SAMP, we had no policies on fisheries, and so we wouldn't be here in this review tonight if we hadn't put that in place. Now, the other problem or limitation that we operate under federal consistency, because it is a federal program, is under state law we would be able to conduct a series of hearings, and then the council, once those hearings were closed, would conduct a final decision. In federal consistency, once a notice of intent is issued by BOEM, or the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, the state has 6 months to make the decision. And if it does not make a decision within those 6 months, the project is automatically approved. In this case, what can happen and what the federal regulations allow for is that clock essentially can be stopped through what's called a stay agreement. Now, a stay agreement has to be agreed upon by both the developer and the state. It takes a very specific format, and it is then filed with the federal agencies. There have been actually 5 stay agreements that have been entered into on this project to get us to this point tonight. Vineyard Wind is indicated to us that because of the construction schedule, the promises that they've made to Massachusetts, and their ability to act or acquire a federal tax incentive, they will not grant any more stays in this process. So we have to finish this tonight, as the chair has indicated. Otherwise, this project is approved. Once the council renders a decision, typically the appeal to a decision would go to the Secretary of Commerce. So there are 3 actions that the council could take tonight. One is to concur, meaning that they would agree that this project meets all the enforceable policies of the Ocean SAMP. 2, they would issue a conditional concurrence that they would say, yes, we believe that it could concur if it meets these specific requirements. Or 3, it could object to it. In both a conditional concurrence and an objection, the developer can file an appeal. That appeal goes to the Secretary of Commerce, as I previously indicated. And if the Secretary of Commerce overturns it, then the project goes forward. In this case, one of the issues that the Fishermen's Advisory Board was facing was if they did not enter into an agreement with Vineyard Wind on the mitigation measures, and it subsequently went on an appeal to the Bureau of Ocean Energy, to the Secretary of Commerce. And the Secretary of Commerce upheld their appeal, in other words, overturned the state. They would get nothing in terms of compensation other than what Vineyard Wind has already indicated that they would provide under a direct compensation provision through their draft EIS. So, as I said, there are a series of limitations. The state has subsequently, since Vineyard has entered into a voluntary appeal, to a voluntary consistency decision, sorry about that, has mapped out and requested of NOAA an amended geographic location description now encompasses all of the current Vineyard lease as well as the Orsted lease, so that we will have a say in those projects going forward. The other thing that I would just like to note is on the federal side, as I indicated, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management has issued a notice of intent to prepare an EIS for this project. There's a new presidential executive order as well as a secretary executive order that now obligates those agencies to go forward and complete their reviews within 1 year. So they have to produce a final EIS within 1 year once they've entered into that process. They have 2 years to finalize the draft, the final EIS, the record of decision, and all the other federal permits that would be required to be put in place within that 2-year period. So again, it's compressed the timeline for these projects into a very, very tight timeline. And I know, because we're also a cooperating agency on the EIS, that the federal agencies are working extremely hard under this compressed timeline, trying to meet those obligations right now. The other thing that can be perplexing to people at this time too is BOEM has also sort of modified the process to involve what's called an envelope concept. The envelope concept essentially is the developer gives sort of a draft of what they think they might be doing, but such things as final cable layout, final foundation types and design, all those project elements related to construction, they don't have to finalize until they get to the construction stage itself. So it makes it, again, a very different process than what we've been used to dealing with this because of this envelope concept that BOEM has employed at this point. There's obviously, we believe, a number of problems with that, which we're trying to resolve with BOEM right now, but this is the first project going through this process. And as a consequence, we all find ourselves sitting here tonight with this. So with that, I think I'll stop.